My name is Elijah Cole. This class is FTT122 5600. I'm doing assignment 1. For this class, we will be going through a 3-part situation. So part 1, we are going to go through my understanding of the 4 steps of ballistics: internal, transitional, external, and terminal. Also, I am going to talk about if I found anything interesting upon my outside research, if I found anything different, and I'm going to speak upon variables in each of the 4 steps of flight performance. Can I find anything that will affect flight performance of the projectile? Part 2, I will describe what sectional density is in a way that a person who is unfamiliar to ballistics will fully understand the concept. Part 3, I will choose 1 out of 11 questions, and we're going to go from there. Before I get anything else, we're going to get right into the assignment. From my understanding, internal ballistics has to deal with the chamber step or the chamber operation step of the firearm. Internal ballistics would consist of the ignite of the primer. And it will consist of the ignite of the primer, powder burning, pressures rising and lowering within the chamber, as well as the projectile leaving the shell casing and going down the barrel of the firearm, whether that be a rifle, handgun, shotgun, bolt action rifle, whatever it may be. External ballistics. From my understanding, external ballistics would be everything that has to deal with from the moment that the projectile leaves the barrel of the firearm. So, pressures that are in front and behind of the projectile, as well as velocity, as along with muzzle pressures. So we have the direct pressures from the muzzle, and we have velocity following with the speed, right? Velocity and speed of the projectile going down range. Now, after we have that, now that we have that part, I would like to go to terminal ballistics. Terminal ballistics is, from my understanding, what happens on target, or you can describe it as the wound ballistics, terminal and or wound ballistics. I can describe terminal ballistics when the projectile hits a medium, whether it be a soft target or a hard target. What is the effect of the projectile cause it was hit? So if we are looking at a video of a 147 grain 9mm FMJ shoot at a center blockage slow motion, that would be a terminal ballistics video in my opinion, because we are paying attention to basically the damage of the round or the effect of the round. Now, transitional ballistics was something that I have not heard of until I was able to read through the paragraphs that describe transitional ballistics under recoil and recycling. That was new for me. I have only heard of the 3, and I'm going to also add in there, that is something that I found interesting while doing outside research. Recoil and cycling is just recoil and cycling on the internet. It's not transitional ballistics. I would have never known that that is looked at as transitional ballistics without you all. So I can describe transitional ballistics from my understanding would be any movement of the firearm that has to interact or interface with your hand, whether that be the cycling of the action from you discharging a round and it's coming back to pick up a new round, or you rack or you pump a pump action shotgun, that would be considered transitional. Even you pulling the charger handle on a rifle, that is transitional, as well with the recoil, that is transitional. I also would even think that ejection from the firearm would be considered transitional, because transition would mean to move. So with the high pressures of the round being ignited within the chamber, causing the round to eject, that also is transitional, like I was saying. And there are different levels of pressure, which also ties back into, it just all loops around. We're just going to keep going. Now, I am going to talk about any variables that can affect the flight and performance of a projectile, and there are many variables. The first variable that everyone pays attention to, or most people pay attention to within the firearm industry, it would be bullet coefficient, or it would be the mathematics around the bullet and the casing and propellant and all. You have a math equation here itself. So the bullet coefficient, or SD, or standard deviation, and the mathematical situation that we have here, along with wind, temperature, all of that. These are things that can affect the flight and performance of a projectile. So we are going to start with internally, things that can not perfect, but the things that can affect the internal ballistics would be a weak shell casing. A shell casing can rupture, or we can have a bullet not being seated or crimped correctly, or we can have a bad primer. Either it'll be too hard to ignite, or the primer can fall out. Anything can happen at this point. So ammunition is ammunition. These have been problems for ammunition for a while, especially if not done right or followed. If you don't follow directions, things can go wrong, obviously. So internally, we can have a bad crimp, bullet cannot be seated correctly. We can have a brass casing. This can be a reused brass casing. Even though it can say it's manufactured, it could be used. Now those things can all be a thing that can affect the internal ballistics. Now, something that can affect transitional ballistics, almost nothing. Transitional ballistics, you're always gonna transitional ballistics, you're always gonna have some interface with the firearm within your hand, regardless of a case exploding in your magazine, a dead primer, anything. You're gonna have to interact with that unless you drop your firearm. External ballistics, things that can affect external ballistics would be drastic wind, whether it be going left or right, up or down. Heat can affect it. Cold can also affect it. Rain, whether you're shooting through brush, a lot of things can affect your flight time, or things can affect your projectile while it's in flight. Things that can affect terminal ballistics. The first thing that comes to my mind that will affect terminal ballistics would be a badly forged projectile. Did the projectile do not what it was intended to do? Was it a jacketed hollow point that was bonded that didn't stay bonded? Was it a a frangible projectile that did not do what frangible projectile are created to do? Was it a FMJ that acted like a hollow point? Or was it a FMJ that acted like a flat-nosed solid copper round? Body weight can affect terminal, depending on the thickness. Not even, I'm going off body weight for hunting because I have been studying to hunt. So we're going to use the thickness of the hide of the animal, the muscle quality or the muscle density of the animal can affect terminal ballistics. This is the reason why barrel twist rates are getting faster. Different gunpowders are starting to get formulated to burn faster and then slower in certain parts of the casings, or completely just hot shit fast all in general. So we have some projectiles that scream really, really, like, I mean, like, you guys know, like the 8.6 blackout, that terminal ballistics is very insane using the guerrilla ammunition. That helicopter effect that rounds has going through a jail block alone is really insane. That would probably take a rhinoceros out of the game, coming out of the correct barrel with the correct load of powder. Me describing sectional density, the easiest that I can explain it would be to break down the round itself and what it's called and why it is called that. So we have a 9mm NATO 150 grain projectile. If you clean firearms, you know to clean a firearm with the bore brush, you need the 3.55 bore brush to go through the bore. That's what we use. So it would be 115 grain. It'd be 115 M. 115 is your mass. 0.355 would be your diameter. So describing sectional density for someone to understand it that does not have knowledge upon this topic would be simply saying that sectional density is basically the geometry of the round itself, or the projectile exactly. Not only can it pull itself apart in mid-flight, you can also destabilize it from it spinning too fast. Rounds already have a natural drag and pull due to the rifling in the barrel and the way that it is already spinning. So with it spinning too fast, you can make that effect of the already rotational pull of the round on a longer distance shot more drastic. Instead of the wind pushing the round would be basically pulling itself to one side, or again, like I mentioned, just shredding itself in mid-flight and not even hitting the target.